Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is a 1 to 75 guide for the Spellblade using Shatterstrike. Now once you hit 75 you can transition into the Shatter King build that I've done, which you're seeing gameplay for right now, or you can continue on as a full life leeching Spellblade, which is what we do in this guide. Now you can use Shatterstrike starting at level 24, 25. As soon as you choose the mastery, it's unlocked. You can spec into it, and you can use it from that point on all the way until level 100. Now it is pretty heavy in mana cost early on, so it can feel kind of clunky to use between level 24 and 34 in the game here. But once you get into it a little bit, once you build into it a bit, we were able to level 34 plus just start to absolutely annihilate with it. And after we got done with the campaign, started into the echoes, it started to feel really good and was doing lots of damage for us, especially once you got that 26 point into the Spellblade passive tree and unlocked dual welding. And then again, once you hit level 64 and you could put the crystal swords on, and the damage again got buffed, and our damage, skyrocketed at all of those checkpoints. And once we got into endgame, we just started absolutely annihilating everything. You can kill trash mobs with one cast, you can take out rares and bosses in seconds instead of minutes, and it feels really good. And there's a lot of room after this 1 to 75 guide for expansion. Now we did get this entire character from 1 to 75 in just one day, so you can tell that if you were to spend a week on it, you could easily get much better gear and work towards that level 100 build. Alright, as always, there will be timestamps in the description below. Each of those timestamps will reference a build planner and where I go over what I have done. I'll show you where I put my passive points and my skill points. And then of course there will be a written guide that'll show you everything you need to know. So alright, let's go ahead and get into it and get started. Alright travelers, we're now level 4. We've got about 150 health. We haven't picked up anything in the source of resistances except for fire. We got a little bit of fire. Armor's sitting a little bit up there, but that's just because we're low level. And we haven't really built into anything. I think we've only found a headpiece and a relic, and that's it at this point. For skills, we are going to specialize our first specialization skill. We're going to go with Elemental Nova. It's going to give us some AoE, and once we can channel it, lots of attacks per second for some good clear damage right off the bat. So the first point's going to go into Lightning Nova, then we'll build into the Elemental Expanse, get into that Luminaire, and then we'll build into the base crit chance and the spark charges. For passives, we got 2 points. Both points are going to go into the Mage base class, and both of them into Arcanist for that intelligence, which will give us a little extra damage, and then we'll also get that fire and lightning resistance. That's going to be it for now. I'll see you guys at level 9. Alright, Travelers, we're now level 9. We've opened up our second skill specialization slot. We've got just over 200 health. We have picked up some physical resist, which is nice. At this point, you really want to be getting as much void as you can along with physical. We haven't got any void yet. Hasn't been too much of a problem other than our start off, but that was mostly my fault. We've got some fire resist as well, some armor, some dodge. And then for damage types, really nothing yet. We do have a little lightning damage, but we're not building into that too hard other than the Elemental Nova, but eventually everything will become cold damage. For skills, we got the 3 more points in Elemental Nova. All 3 of them will go into Elemental Expanse for that area. This is going to open up the Luminaire, which we'll get on the next update. And then for our second skill, we're going to go ahead and spec into Flame Ward. The third skill, we'll have something spec that we do for a little bit until we open up the Mastery, but then we're going to swap it out with Shatterstrike, and from that point on, we'll be all about Shatterstrike. We might even drop out Elemental Nova, as we won't need it at that point. But for the first point in Flame Ward, we are going to put that point in Star Ward Defense for that extra ward gain. And then for passives, we got 6 more points. All 6 of them are going to go into Arcanist for that Int, Fire Resist, and Lightning Resist. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 12 or 13 for the next update. Alright, Travelers, we're now level 12. We got about 270 health. Our resistances are coming up. We have almost capped fire. We have quite a bit of elemental. Physical still coming up, and we do have some void now, which has really helped with our survivability. We haven't died since we were level 4, which is a bit of an improvement for us. Got about 13% armor, 10% dodge, and then for damage types, really not much damage. Still the same starting weapon. We did put a tier 1 spell damage on it, but that was it. At this point, you know, you're still trying to get spell damage as we use Elemental Nova, but eventually that will change as we go full melee after we master in the Spellblade. For skills, we got one more point for Elemental Nova. I already threw it in, but you want 1 point in Luminaire. That'll allow you to channel it. You're going to get 5 attacks per second. You're going to do a lot more damage. You'll kill a lot faster with that. And then, of course, we're going to start building into the crit and the spark charges now just to get a little more damage out of it. For Flame Ward, 3 more points, all 3 of them going into Dilation for that duration, the mana efficiency. This is not only going to take less mana so that, you know, you're not worried about half your mana disappearing every time you cast it, which will save you, you know, so you can use Elemental more often, but it's also going to make it last longer so you'll have more survivability. And then for passives, we've got 3 more points. All 3 of them are going to go into Scholar for that flat health and that flat mana. And we have officially unlocked Teleport, so we'll start going a little bit more zoom zoom. We'll be throwing that down here on the skill bar. If you are running out of mana quite often or having problems, Mana Strike is really nice early on to be able to get your mana back really quick. You do have to be in melee range, you do have to get hits, but it does work for getting that mana back and then using Elemental Nova even more. And that's going to be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 19 when we open up the 3rd specialization slot. Alright, Travelers, we're now level 19. We opened up our third specialization slot for the character sheet. We've got just over 350 health. We're still working on our resistances. Still got quite a bit of elemental. Physical's a little bit higher. Void's alright. We're still taking quite a bit of void damage. So if you can get that higher, it's going to feel much better in this part of the campaign. Got about 15% armor, 13% dodge. Dodge is also really good for you this early on. Easy to stack. Of course, as it scales up and you get higher level, it's going to fall down. But early on feels really good. And then for damage, we still haven't really built into any damage types. For skills, we got 2 more points for Elemental Nova. I'm going to throw them both into Star Prism just for that channeling cost, just to make it feel better. This is a skill we're going to respec here probably at the next update when we get our Mastery. We're going to throw Shatterstrike in there. So it doesn't really matter where you put the points, but it doesn't channel for very long. It's super mana expensive, so this is going to feel much better getting a couple points in there. For Flame Ward, we got 3 more points. I'm going to throw them all into the barrier, so while it's active, we will take 24% less damage, or hit damage. That's not dot damage, just hit damage, but it'll help protect you a little bit. And then for our third skill, we're going to go ahead and go into Teleport. And for Teleport, all 3 will go into Resonant Plasma as we build into getting the decoys, which will help, distract bosses, distract enemies, and help your survivability there as well. For passives, we got 8 more points. We're going to cap out Scholar with 5 more points, and then we're going to throw 3 of them into Knowledge of Destruction for that critical strike chance and that critical multiplier, which is going to come into a lot of use when you get Shatterstrike, because Shatterstrike, we're going to build into getting 100% crit with it, and we're also going to build into that crit multi and making it hit really, really hard, especially since we get that huge crit multi per sword, and we'll be able to dual wield eventually in the Spellblade tree to do really good hit damage with Shatterstrike. Alright, that's going to be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 24-25 when we do the Mastery update. Alright, Travelers, we're now level 24. We get to choose our mastery at this point for the character sheet. We are capped on fire. We still have some elemental. We have pretty high physical. Our void's not that high, but at this point, after the end of time, necrotic and physical are going to be like the two main things you want to go for. So start looking for necrotic. We got about 14% armor, 10% dodge, and for damage, not much. We're going to go ahead and choose our mastery. We're going Spellblade on this beauty. This is going to give us the Shatterstrike, so that'll be nice. Then for skills, so now that we're going to spec into Shatterstrike, we're going to go ahead and get rid of Elemental Nova. This also means if you're wearing a wand or a staff or any two-handed mage weapon, you're going to want to change it for a sword or something with melee damage, as that is what we will be using. Now we got 4 points for Shatterstrike here. We're going to go ahead and throw 2 points into Lingering Chill for that cold damage, 1 point into Breath of Cold for damage in area, and 1 point in Whiteout, so that we will get 2 cast every time that we use it. This will make it cost a lot more. It slows down the attack speed, but what it does do is you'll get 2 hits with it in the area of effect. Then for Flame Ward, we got 2 more points. We're going to go ahead and cap out Barrier. For Teleport, we got 4 more points. 1 point will go in Resonant Plasma, 1 point in Unexpected Copy, 1 point in Decoy Position, and then we're going to go ahead and start building into the Elemental Affinity with 1 point there. If you want more defense, you can also start building into the Crystalline Passage for that more cold resistant armor to go along with the lightning and fire resistance that you also get. For passives, we got 7 points. We're going to put 1 more point into the Mage base class, that 1 point in Knowledge of Destruction. Now that we have 20 points here, we can go ahead and start putting points into either the Spellblade or the Sorcerer. For my build, I want more mana regen so that we can spec or cast Shatterstrike more often. So I'm going to go ahead and put 6 points into the Brainstorm. That's just for the mana regen. If you want to go into Spellblade, your best bet's going to get into more damage, so you can put into Infused Weapon, and this is going to give you, with those 6 points, you'll get 12 more cold melee damage with Shatterstrike, so you'll do more damage. This will be the first thing that I build into after we cap out that mana regen, but early in the game, it's going to be super high mana cost. You're going to want a lot of mana regen so you can cast it more often, or you're going to get stuck using Mana Strike and Focus a lot. So we're going to go ahead and put those first 8 points into Sorcerer. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 34 for the 4th Specialization skill slot. Alright, we're now level 34. We got over just 600 health. We're still working on our resistances. We're still trying to get physical capped. At this point in the campaign, necrotic is something you definitely want to have. I didn't have much necrotic. I did die a couple of times, but necrotic is something you want to work on and start getting your elementals, up. We've already got the fire up, but cold is something you're definitely going to want, especially the chapter after this one, as we get into Heoboria and we get into the fire and cold there. We got about 16% armor, 8% dodge. Still haven't built too much into those. Dodge is something we will build into quite a bit. We'll try and get to like 30-40% dodge, especially since we'll be dual wielding swords and you can get percent increased dodge on those. That will be something we work on as we get into endgame. And then for skills, we got... Technically, there's 8 more points. I cheated and already put 2 in, but here you're going to have 1 more point in whiteout to cap that out, and then the 1 point in icy flow, and then we got 6 more points. There is 1 level that I got on a chest piece. You might not have that. If you don't have that, you won't be able to place all these points, but I'm going to put 2 into icy flow, 2 into shiver, and then 2 into cold still. If you don't have the +1, just take 1 point out of icy flow, or that'll be the next place that you go. And this will reduce the mana cost. It was costing us 39. We now have it down to 33, which is actually a whole bunch of trick 3s there. We got 333 damage per second at a 33 cost, so it's looking pretty good there. Then for Flame Ward, we got 3 more points here. We're going to go ahead and put all 3 of them in Star Ward Defense so we get more ward every time that we activate it. We got 4 points for Teleport. We're going to go ahead and put all 4 to cap out Elemental Affinity, so when we teleport, we'll have increased elemental damage for 4 seconds. So Shatterstrike and Mana Strike will hit a little bit harder. And then for the 4th skill, this is going to be our Mana Generator. We don't get Surge for a while. Surge will be the 5th skill for our movement skill, which we'll probably change out Teleport for eventually. Maybe keep Teleport for the decoys, and then Surge just for movement. They do share a cooldown, so you'll have to fight back and forth with them. But here, you can choose between Focus and Mana Strike, whichever one you like more for a Mana Regenerator. But I'm going to go with Mana Strike. We're going to throw 3 points on the right side with Arcanist Blade for that mana gained, and then 2 for the attack speed with Swift Sap on the right side. And then for passives, we got 14 more points. In the Sorcerer tree, we're going to go ahead and cap out Brainstorm with 2 more points for that mana regen, just so we can spam Shatterstrike more often and not have to use Mana Strike as often. And then for Spellblade, we're going to start putting all of our next points into this. And the reason we want to get as many here as possible is we have to get to that 26 point line in order to get the dual wielding of the swords. We're going to go ahead and cap out Infused Weapon. This is going to give us 16 more melee cold damage with Shatterstrike, so we're going to be hitting quite a bit harder. And then that leaves us with 4 points. 4 points are all going to go into Arcane Warden for that ward gained every time that we use Shatterstrike. And then in our next update, we're going to continue to cap that out. We can also get into our Elemental Resist. We're going to want more points in Frozen Steel for that melee cold damage. And after we work on those 3, we'll be able to put that point in for the dual wielding of swords, which will help build the crit multi and crit chance and all of that for Shatterstrike, as well as boost our attack speed. And that will be it for this update. I'll see you guys at around level 42 for another update as we get into Heoboria. Alright, travelers, we're now level 42. Just a quick update, we have just over 650 health. We're still working on resistances. At this point, cold resist would be a really good one to get up. You've already been through the fire. You can see we dropped ours down as we switched down some gear. But getting physical and elemental resistances are still really good at this point. Still building our armor. We haven't really started building into dodge yet. We are going to get a lot of dodge increase on our one-handed swords once we're dual wielding those, so that's when we'll really build into it in endgame. But for now, I haven't really built much into it. For damage, we got a little bit more critical strike multiplier. We do have some extra cold damage, but that's about it at this point. We are trying to build into that 100% crit, so whatever weapon you're using, getting some base melee crit chance is really going to help you as well. For skills, we got 2 more points for Shatterstrike. I'm going to go ahead and cap out the Icy Flow. It's going to give us more ward on hit and then reduce that mana cost down from 33 down to 28. So we'll be able to cast it a little bit more. We got 2 more points for Flame Ward. We're going to cap out that Star Ward defense and then put 1 point in Fire Aura. We're going to get into the cold, convert it to cold, and then we'll slowly get into that damage. So we'll be able to get that 250% increased damage, which will be converted to cold damage. So we'll get a nice boost of damage every time that Flame Ward goes up. We got 3 points for Teleport, cap out the Resonant Plasma, and then with 2 more points, we're going to put them both in Crystalline Passage for that cold resistance as well as flat armor increase. And then for Mana Strike, 7 more points. We're going to go ahead and cap out the Swift Sap for the attack speed, 1 point in Sprite Blade for that area, and then 4 points in Mana Drain. So we get that 80% more mana gained for every hit that we get against the enemies. Then for passives, we got 12 points. We're going to go ahead and cap out the Arcane Warden for that ward gained every time we hit at least one enemy with an elemental attack, which will be both Mana Strike and Shatter Strike. So that's where we're going to get a lot of our ward gained there. And then 5 points in Frozen Steel is going to give us more melee cold damage when we use Shatter Strike. That leaves us with 3 points, and all 3 of them are going to go in Essence Duel. It's going to give us more melee attack speed and even more ward gained whenever we use an elemental melee attack and hit one enemy. So the ward gained here stacks with the ward gained down here. And then we're just 2 points away from being able to have a point in Gemini, which will allow us to dual wield. Once we can dual wield, we're really going to get into that crit chance and then build a lot more into attack speed, obviously, and the dodge rating, since we can put that on one-handed swords. And that's going to be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 49 when we get into that 5th spill. When we get into that 5th skill specialization slot, which will be Search. Alright, travelers, we're now level 49. We have almost 800 health. We're still working on our resistances. We have capped out physical. At this point, we're trying to just get our elementals up along with our narcotic and void. Poison is going to be the last thing that I worry about. We're gonna start building into dodge, making sure that on our one-handed swords, now that we're dual wielding, that we get percent increased dodge as well as our melee attack speed, our added cold damage, and your elemental damage or cold damage increase on them. You're also going to want to get to that 100% melee critical strike chance, so you may be throwing that as a prefix as well. You'll have to decide between those three on it. For damage types, still haven't really built into too much damage. We do have just over 100% cold damage, but that's about it. We are getting a huge bonus to our crit multi through Shatterstrike skill tree itself. For our skills, we got 2 more points for Shatterstrike, so we're going to throw both of those into cold still. And now that we are running 2 swords, we're going to get 240% crit multiplier with our Shatterstrike, so that's why we want to get to that 100% crit, because we're dealing a lot more damage with our critical strikes. Then for Flame Ward, we got 1 more point. We're going to go ahead and convert it to cold so that we get that, and then we'll build into the damage increase, so every time it activates, we'll get more cold damage. For Teleport, 1 more point in Crystalline Passage. For Mana Strike, we're going to go ahead and put 2 points in critical mana, so we gain more mana on a critical strike, and then with 1 point in critical rejuvenation, we're basically going to do no extra damage with Mana Strike when we do crits, but we're guaranteed that crit basically with that 40% base, so that's going to go ahead and allow us to get that mana every time. And then for our 5th skill, we're going to go with Enchant Weapon, not Surge. You can switch out Teleport for Surge if you want, but I really like the decoys, they're pretty nice. And then for Enchant Weapon, we got 6 points. Going to go ahead and put 2 of them in Shivering Blade for more chill chance, but that unlocks the Frost Brand, which is going to give us that added melee cold damage and increase our melee cold damage. So we're going to go ahead and work towards capping that out and put 4 points there for now. Then for passives, we got, technically you should have 9 more passives. I already spent 2, but we're going to cap out Essence Duel. So 2 points will go there, 1 point will go in Gemini so that you can dual weld. And then my last 6 points, we're going to go ahead and throw in Prismatic Blade for all of that dex, which is going to give us added cold damage, and then we get more cold damage for melee attacks. So this will actually give us 12 more flat cold damage for Shatterstrike, since it gets +1 cold damage per point of dex. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at 55 as we start working our way through the Monolith of Fate and working towards Abomination. Alright, travelers, we're now level 55. We got almost 800 health. We're slowly building up our mana as well. We're at about 130. We are going to try and get to 300 mana so that we can get that double damage of cold damage when we have over 300 mana. For resistances, they're coming along. We've capped out Void. Our elemental and physicals getting up there. We're actually going to get quite a bit more elemental out of passives. That'll cap these out for us. So all we really need now is physical, poison, and a little more necrotic. We got about 14% armor. Our dodge is starting to come up. We haven't put dodge percentage rating increase yet on our swords, but once we get that with some more flat dodge on our gear, we're going to easily be able to get up to 30 or 40%, which is really going to help increase our survivability. For damage types, we're still sitting, not very much cold damage, still under 100%, and then we have about 250% crit multi, but we get another 240% crit multi from Shatterstrike itself. So we have almost 500% crit multi, which is while allowing you and your crits to hit for such damage. And then on the other defensive side, we haven't built into endurance or critical strike avoidance yet, so we are going to have to start working into those as well, as we are playing a life build. For skills, we took off the chest that had +1 Shatterstrike, so nothing new for Shatterstrike. For Flame Ward, we got 1 more point. We're going to go ahead and put it into Infusion, so we'll get 50% increased cold damage since it is converted to cold for 4 seconds, or as long as your duration is for Flame Ward, which is actually 3 seconds with a 33% increase, so it'll be for 4 seconds at this point. For Teleport, we got 1 more point. We're going to put it into Passage for that cold resist and flat armor. For Mana Strike, 1 more point into critical mana for even more mana on those critical strikes when you use Mana Strike. And then we got 9 points for Enchant Weapon with 1 point in Frost Brand for that cold damage added and increased. Then we're going to put 4 points in Concentration so it lasts longer, and 4 points in Efficacy so that you get an increased melee elemental damage, as well as the skill will now be free. It actually costs 0 mana now, so that's going to be really nice. For passives, we got 6 more points for passives. All of them are going to go into the Spellblade tree. We're going to go ahead and cap out the Prismatic Blade with 2 more points. We're going to put 1 point into Arcane Shielding so we can get that shield, and then the rest of them are going to go into Volka's Razor for that increased elemental damage with high cost melee attacks, which is 10 or more mana, and Shatter costing 28 mana at the moment is obviously going to qualify for that. So we're going to get that, and then we'll build into Blade Reaver. This will be a more damage multiplier for us once we use like Mana Strike. So every time we use Mana Strike a couple of times and then we hit an enemy, you'll get a more modifier with that first Shatter Strike that you use, which is really going to boost your damage. You'll be able to get to 150% more damage. So we will build into this increased and the more before going anywhere else. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at 65 for the next one. Alright, travelers, we're now level 65. We have just over 1100 health. We've capped down a lot of our resistances. Still working on the Void and Necrotic. Poison will be the last thing that we get into. We got about 10% dodge. Still looking to get dodge rating percent increase on our swords. We don't have it yet. As we build into that, we would like to get to at least 30-40%. Got a bit of armor still. And then for damage types, we're still under 100% cold. We'll be increasing that over time. We're still trying to build up our mana as well to benefit from the idols. And then for defense, we did get our critical strike avoidance, so we got that capped out. Next, we're going to be building into our endurance, trying to get that up to 60%. And then we'll just let the endurance threshold kind of stack as we get more health. For skills, we got 3 more points for Shatterstrike. We're going to put 2 points in absolute zero, so we get 30% more hit damage, and then 1 more point in shiver for that increased area and cold penetration. We got 2 more points for Flame Lord. Both of them will go into infusion, so we get another 100% cold damage while that's active. For teleport, we got 2 more points. We're going to cap out Crystalline Passage, and then we're going to go into the mirror images, so they last a bit longer with 1 point in stable duplicates. Got 2 more points for Mana Strike. We're going to cap out the critical mana, so we get as much mana as possible on a critical strike with our Mana Strike, which is going to be giving us roughly 70-71 mana per hit now. And then we got 3 more points for Enchant Weapon. We're going to put 1 point in Frozen Sparks. The crystal swords that we're wearing do come with 40 melee physical damage, so this gives us 4 cold and 4 lightning added when it's active, and we have that for 2 swords, so it's 8 more cold and 8 more melee lightning. And then we got 1 point in Desperation, so as our mana is missing, we'll do more melee elemental damage, and then 1 point in Celerity for that melee attack speed. For passives, we got 10 more points. All of them are going to go into the Spellblade. We're going to put 1 point in Mana Reaver. This is going to give us that chance to gain mana on hit. Only a 6% chance, but we'll build more into that later. Also gives some flat health. We're going to cap out Riverblade for that melee cold damage. So 5 points there, and then the last 4 points are all going to go into Volka's Razor, and this is going to give us even more increased melee elemental damage. We're going to cap that out, and then we're going to put some points into Blade Reaver. We'll come back, cap out the Mana Reaver, and then we're going to go back to Sorcerer and get some of the mana so that we can get closer to 300 max mana by getting some int and some extra armor down here with all of that added mana. And that'll be it for this update. I'll see you guys at level 75. Alright, Travelers, we're now level 75. We just have over 1,300 health. We've capped out quite a bit of our resistances. Still working on Void, and we just really haven't bothered with Poison. Poison really hasn't been a problem. But if you do get some Poison, of course, it's not a bad thing. We got 15% armor. We are slowly getting dodge up. We only have dodge rating increase on one sword at the moment, but as we build into that, we should be able to get this up to 30% pretty easily as we continue to find more dodge gear. For damage, we got just over 100% cold damage. We do have 2 crystal swords, which are just absolutely annihilating things for us, and we've put into them quite a bit of chance. We don't have 100% crit chance yet. As you can see, we only have 21% here, but overall it feels, you can see, you definitely get more than that once you have the build actually going. And then for skills, we do have +2 for Shatterstrike on the chest now, and both of those points went into Shiver, giving you that increased area and cold penetration. Then for Flame Ward, we got 1 more point. We're going to go ahead and put it in Infusion. For Teleport, we got 1 more point. We're going to put it into Time Dilation to make the buffs actually last a bit longer. 1 point in Mana Strike for increased area with 1 point in Sprite Blade, and then for Enchant Weapon, 1 more point to Celerity for more melee attack speed while it is active. And then for passives, we got 10 points. We're going to cap out Volka's Razor with that increased elemental damage, and then we're going to put 7 points, the rest of our points, into Blade Weaver. And what this is going to do, every time we use Mana Strike is going to give us a stack of Blade Weaver, and then when we use Shatterstrike, it's going to do more damage per stack that we have. You can have up to 10 stacks of this, or with 7 points you can have up to 7 stacks, but we'll do 15% more elemental damage per stack. So at 7 stacks, we'll be doing 105% more damage with Shatterstrike on the next time that we cast it, which is going to double the amount of damage that does. That is for all 3 strikes on the 1 cast of it. However, we're probably never going to use Mana Strike 7 times in a row to actually get that amount of stacks. But you can, if you want, if you're in single target and you want to build up your mana, you can do a bunch of Mana Strike and just get more damage out of it. However, you really only need a few points here because you're usually only ever going to have 1, 2, maybe 3 stacks of it. But that's going to be it for this update, and that is the end of this guide. I hope you guys found it easy to follow. I hope you saw, what I struggled with, what I didn't struggle with, how well the build came together there towards the end, and just how easy it was to use. I'm going to leave you guys with some gameplay, and as always, stay safe, travelers.